رسول الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How's everyone doing? Alhamdulillah. Doesn't it feel good that the youth are coming back together? That we're actually having a day for the youth? Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah, youth. Jazakallah khair again for you guys to come. This is y'all's day. Alright, every Friday, inshallah, what we're trying to do is try to have it y'all's day. And we're going to talk about issues that you guys are all facing. For example, today is going to be fighting temptations. I went to high school when I was here in the United States, in Houston, actually in Dulles, just around the corner. And I saw what the temptations were. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected me, and I didn't do any of those temptations. But unfortunately, there are some kids, realistically, there are some kids that fall in that trap. So what we're trying to do is trying to get lectures like these, talk about social issues. Inshallah, the people can get back to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and will become a better community. And inshallah, Brother Adeel, he went to Washington DC and trying to gain more education, become like the Muslim chaplain. And alhamdulillah, he's coming back here to Houston, in the Houston area, which we can gain from his knowledge, inshallah. Very great speaker if you haven't heard him. And inshallah, I'm not going to hold you guys, because I know you guys want to play some activities, and I'm sure you guys are hungry. So we're going to just start with Adeel Zib. Assalamu alaikum.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة على رسول الله. First of all, I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to be here tonight and giving us the hadayah, the guidance to come here tonight when we could be in other places. To thank also the ISGH board volunteers and committee members and South Zone Youth Committee for their efforts, and all of you for coming tonight. You know, not because I'm speaking or whatever, but it's the knowledge is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one who gives us the knowledge. And the angels lower their wings when knowledge is disseminated into a certain set area. Also, Sheikh Isa, please stand up. Sheikh Isa is the youth director and outreach director here at the masjid. So please feel free to talk to him about issues that are bothering you, or you want to talk about, or troubling you, or whatever it might be. He's here for you. MashaAllah, he studied many years at University of Medina, I think 8 to 10 years. So he's a lot more knowledgeable than myself, and I have no problems admitting that, mashallah, and I learned from him. So jazakallah khair, Sheikh Isa, for your help. So when I talk, it's very interactive, all right? So I'm not going to sit here like an 80-year-old professor and like in England and just talk for 2 hours. So I need everyone to talk back with me and communicate. So can we do that? Raise your hand if we can do that. Because most everybody is there. Okay, good. All right, with that, inshallah, we'll start. Oh, one more thing. No texting, Facebooking, tweeting, Google buzzing during the talk. Unless you have people who are really close and they're going to come to the talk. But other than that, please don't put your cell phones on during the session. Okay, bismillah, we'll start. So, if I walk into a fight, or not myself, say somebody else, like Manny Pacquiao, and it's a boxing fight, or a UFC fight, and they walk in like this, with their hands like this, smiling, what's going to happen to them? Go ahead, I'm sorry? Knocked out? Yeah, they'll be knocked out. Boom, 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 down, right? So how do you walk into a fight? How do they walk into fights? Like this, right? With your hands up, covering your face, ready to react to problems, to what's coming at you. It's the same way that we have to act against shaitan, against the devil. Because shaitan, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us in the 7th surah, ayah 17, that he is an enemy to us. So take him as an enemy. He only invites to his party to be among the companions of the blaze. So shaitan is inviting each and every single one of us to Club Jahannam. And that's his objective, that's his goal. And he wants to constantly do that to us. And nobody is free of this. Not me, not anybody who works, not the greatest imam in the entire world. No one's free of this. They're all now can be subjugated to this problem. Another surah in Surah Fatir, Surah 35, Ayah 6, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about shaitan coming at us after each and every single one of us, at each and every angle, right? Left, right, front, back, coming at us. And there's also hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he said, and this hadith is in Sahih Muslim, that shaitan circulates in the body of man like the circulation of blood, right? So none of us can really escape this type of attack. I mean, it's coming, but there are ways that you can avoid it, inshallah ta'ala. And also in the same hadith, another narration, shaitan penetrates in man like the penetration of blood in every part of the body. Now, the first topic, or part of the topic, was alcohol, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Baqarah, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ قُلْ فِيهِمَا إِثْمٌ كَبِيرٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِمَا. Meaning, they will ask you, they ask you about wine and gambling. Say, in them is great sin, and yet some benefit for people. But their sin is greater than their benefit. Because you're going to find people, either right now in middle school, or in high school, or in college, or after that are coming to you and telling you that, what's wrong with alcohol? Why can't you drink? I drink and I'm fine. I don't have any problem with that. I don't get drunk. I don't do anything wrong. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying there might be a little benefit in this, but the harm is a lot greater. And we'll talk about these types of the harm and how great it is, inshallah ta'ala. Islam not only protects the individual, it protects the Jama'at. Jama'at means what?
Generation.
Sorry? Congregation, community, you can say. The community, right? The Jama'at is a community. So Islam protects the individual and the community as well. And a recent research journal, it's a British research journal, The Lancet, also stated by CNN, that among the top 20, a list of drugs, as the most harmful top 20 drugs, which one was first? Guess. Sorry? Coke? Okay, what else? Marijuana, okay. Tobacco, okay. Heroin, all right. Sorry? Sherm? Okay.
You never heard of Sean?
It's marijuana dip and I think that liquid they put in dead people.
Oh wow. No, I've heard like some rappers say it, but I don't really know what it is. Okay. I'm sorry?
It's real bad though.
It's really bad. Okay, yeah, I'm sure. Anybody else? 7 guesses so far.
Crack.
Crack. Okay, yeah. You said cocaine already. Alcohol.
Cough syrup.
Number 1. We'll talk about cough syrup in a minute, but alcohol. Number 1 dangerous drug. Heroin, crack, cocaine, and methamphetamine were the most harmful to individuals, the study says, while alcohol, heroin, and crack cocaine were the most harmful to others. And how do these drugs and alcohol mess with our individual community and our community at large? Money. Drugs ain't cheap. They cost money. People spend a lot of money on these drugs. Families are destroyed. What does that mean? That means if a person gets high, gets into this business of smoking and drinking and doing all these drugs, you start one, then you want another one. You want another one because the high, it's addictive. And you want something more and more and more greater. And then the family's destroyed. Husbands start beating their wives and their families. And then when the person is drunk, they can't concentrate. They can't focus. They can't even drive a car. And, you know, if you ask a neurologist who studies the brain, they'll tell you that things like driving are systematic. Like after a while, you're not even thinking when you're driving, you're just doing it. That's why we can do something. You're talking when you're driving, you're listening to a thing, because they're just so automatic. And then when someone's drunk, they can't even do something that's so easily done as driving a car. Careers are ruined. People show up to work drunk and then they get fired because they're coming to work drunk. What happens else? People start dropping out of school, and we'll talk more about that later, inshallah ta'ala. Selling drugs is also illegal, right? It's not legal to do this type of stuff. So you can go to jail for it, right? So then the more and more problems that arise through these types of bad things. Now, we talked about, was a sherm, weed, crack, meth. Who knows what purple drank is? Raise your hand if you know what purple drank is. Raise your hand. Hi, so I can see. Little. Yeah, so purple drink, if you guys, it actually originated here in Houston. I was watching a documentary on ESPN, and purple drink originated here in Houston. And it started with these rappers. These are like, we want purple drink. And I'm not going to talk about exactly what it is, because I don't want anybody ever to get excited about it. But, these things are being propagated. Like these rappers will come to the Video Music Awards and they'll have it in their, like in 2 cups, like to drink and stuff, right? So all these types of things are haram. And we're going to talk about why they are haram, why these new things are haram as well as these old things. Because, everybody knows alcohol is haram. Everybody knows that, I'm assuming. Generally, it's accepted and known that alcohol is haram for Muslims. Non-Muslims know it, Muslims know it. Pretty much everybody knows it. But the problem lies is that people think that marijuana and other things aren't haram. Because there's nothing in the Quran or Sunnah explicitly that says marijuana is haram, right? I think it says it's specifically that stuff. So, yeah.
Like cigarette haram too?
Cigarettes?
Yeah.
Yes, but we'll talk about that later on.
Or the uncles be smoking it.
I'm sorry?
The uncles will be smoking it.
Okay, we'll talk about that. Why the uncles be smoking it? We'll talk about that, inshallah. Remind me to go over that at the end of the lecture, okay? You remind me? Okay. Yeah.
Does hookup fall under the same topic as tobacco?
What's up?
Hookup?
Yeah, and we'll talk about that at the end. So we'll talk about cigarettes and hookah at the end. So then and why it's bad and why some people do it still. Okay. So now, one of the principles of Islam or Islamic jurisprudence, we have like a formula, right? How many of you taken algebra or pre-cal or calculus? Raise your hand. Algebra, pre-cal, or calculus? Raise your hand. Okay, most everybody. Good. So just like in math, there are Islamic formulas for things, right? So everybody has to pay very close attention for the next 20 seconds, all right? You with me? Very close. It's you have to understand this to explain to people why things are bad, all right? Here we go. We have an original case, all right? Then we're going to have a new case, right? We're going to have a reason, which is called an effective cause, and we're going to have a ruling, all right? So follow me. Original case is wine. Call it wine, all right? You mentioned wine? All right. New case is drugs. What's the effect of alcohol, of wine? What happens?
You get high, you be
Intoxicated. It covers your senses. So in Arabic called khamr. Khimar is covers your senses, right? So again, original case is what? Wine. New case is what? What's the effective cause? And what's the ruling on alcohol? Haram. What's the ruling on drugs? You got it. You understand how it works? Everyone clear on that? Do I say it again or is it clear? Say it again? Okay. So original case is alcohol. New case are these drugs. Purple drink, meth, marijuana, all these things, right? The reasoning behind, or the effective cause, why it's haram? Because it intoxicates. So the ruling for alcohol was haram. So the ruling for these drugs is the same, that it's haram. So that's clear, right? Okay. Now, like we said, people will say weed is not haram. Marijuana is not haram. Because I want you to give me some evidence from Quran or from the Prophet ﷺ in the Hadith, from his sayings, right? His sayings, actions, approvals, all these things. So now tell me, where does it say that? So this is how you explain these things to them, right? Because things are going to pop up, right? Purple drank went around 400, 400 years ago in Saudi Arabia, right? This is something new popping up. But the same kind of effective cause is there. Same problems are there. So the National Institute of Drug Abuse, which is here, which is a government agency, says marijuana intoxication can cause distorted perceptions, impaired coordination, difficulty with thinking and problem solving, and problems with learning and memory. And people who smoke that weed all the time, what will happen is their brain will stop operating at this high level. In other words, if they're this smart, if they're an A student, they'll drop to like a C student smartness. Just because they're smoking that weed. And this is how they're constantly going to be. It actually makes you dumb. So how smart is a person who pays money to get dumber? Right? And do you see what I'm saying? Like, I pay money to go to school. Like, I go to school to get smart so I can get a good job and all those things, right? You're paying money to get smarter? That's really dumb. I mean, I don't mean to offend anybody who's smoking, but I'm saying that's pretty dumb, I mean, in my eyes. A number of studies have shown that there's association between chronic marijuana, which is a pun, I guess, you know what chronic, and increased rates of anxiety, depression, and schizophrenia. So dudes who are high, smoke weed, they get like paranoid. You know, they think things are there, they're not really there. Maybe it's a blue moose or the cops are behind them or whatever their minds are telling them. They can't tell. You know, they get really in this phase. Another research from Harvard University and Boston University, one of the dudes who was being tested, who did testing for the weed, he said that time seemed very drawn out. I keep forgetting what I was doing. He took a bite of a burger, and then he forgot he took a bite of the burger. Right? So it's like you have no idea like what's going on. You lose your senses in this. It's really embarrassing. You know, can you imagine? Like, are you hungry? Yeah, man, I've been eating all day. And it's like you've eaten like half of your steak, you know, and they're like looking at you like, you know what you're talking about. When I was in college, I found that with both Muslims and non-Muslim students, smoking marijuana led to laziness, poor grades, and failing out of school. Because they would keep smoking, get so lazy that they would fail out of school. And let me tell you, nobody respects a pothead. Pothead's someone who smokes weed all the time. Nobody respects them. They're like the lowest of the low. Muslim or non-Muslim, they're labeled. Man, that guy's a pothead. He don't do nothing all day. You know, people don't like that kind of person. Same with drunks. Hey, this dirty drunk, stupid drunk. No one likes these types of people. And you'll see it's a wicked cycle. Because it takes money to smoke weed, right? It ain't free like on the street, like water at McDonald's. It costs money. So they go and they buy the weed, they smoke the weed, and they do what?
They get high.
And what else do they do after that? Because they have to buy more.
They do stupid stuff too.
They steal, okay, they steal too, but they sell it, right? They buy, sell, smoke, buy, sell, smoke. This is like a cycle, a satanic cycle of just stupidness, right? You're buying more, so you're making more money, and then you're selling more. Everyone's becoming more and more stupid as the days are passing. In the Ottoman Empire, raise your hand if you know what the Ottoman Empire is. Oh, mashallah, very good. Yeah, good.
I said heard it.
Heard, okay. Who can tell us what the Ottoman Empire is? Go ahead, in the front.
An empire by Muslims,
Yeah. So where was it located?
like in Middle East, Africa,
Turkish, mashallah.
everywhere, like
Yeah,
all over.
Turkey plus, we'll say, right? Okay, so in this empire, there was a problem of opium, okay? So again, the dudes were getting stoned or high, right? And there's also a problem. How are we gonna stop it? So one case, when I was at the seminary, we took this class on, you know, Islamic rulings, like history, right? So a man came for Salatul Isha. For Isha prayer, the last prayer we just prayed right here. And he went down for namaz in the sujood, in salah, and he fell asleep because he was so stoned. The people left the masjid, came back the next day, the dude was still sitting there in the exact same place. And they were writing that, you know, it wasn't like a big thing to them. Like, it was like, yeah, we went to the masjid, the guy was, you know, falling asleep in the prayer, we came back the next day, he was still there. It wasn't like, La ilaha illallah, somebody's still sleeping, you know, it wasn't like a big thing, you know? And it got that bad. And what happened was these people, they started missing their prayers. And they started getting so addicted to this opium that they couldn't operate, they couldn't function. They just put it in their mouth, they would eat it, and it was just a big problem for the Muslims. And we're seeing a similar problem here, that a lot of Muslims nowadays don't think that this stuff is haram. A lot of people, even here in Texas, a lot of people will tell you that, man, it's okay. It's not like, a lot of people you think are very religious and very good, they're still doing it. They might not drink alcohol or other bad things, but they'll have their little weed sessions. And they don't realize it because no one's really told them in a way they can understand that weed is definitely forbidden. We'll talk about hookah at the end, inshallah. So, okay. Now, the last section was the clubs, right? The parties and clubs. And these things get more, what's up?
Are we not allowed to go?
Yeah, don't laugh. It's a serious question.
Like you know sometimes like you go with your parents and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes you go because you don't do nothing bad there. You
Mm.
just go because somebody invite you, like you know them.
Yeah.
Quinceañeras, you know.
Yeah.
Like if they invite you.
Yeah, quinceañera is different than what I'm talking about. And we'll,
Talking about clubs like the Rocks.
like Club Blue and stuff, yeah. Like real clubs with like alcohol and women and men and drugs and stuff like this, right? So we'll talk about that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Ma'idah, Surah Ma'idah, Surah 5, Ayah 90, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, innamal khamr. Right? Oh, you have believed, certainly khamr, or intoxicants, is rijus. It's a defilement. Amalu shaitan. It's from the work of shaitan. And if you avoid them, you will be what? Successful. Tuflihun. Right? So, even you have to avoid these things because in these clubs, you'll find people are drinking, smoking, doing all kinds of drugs. I mean, some drugs they'll do like ecstasy and they are gone. Like they are, I don't know where they are. They're like even worse than Inception. I mean, they're somewhere really far out, right? And you don't know what, and then they can get really sick and they could even die. It's some serious stuff, right? These clubs are very dangerous places to be and never ever go there. It'll start catching up when you get into your teens, like into high school. When you're close to 18, that's when the pressure will start more. I believe. I don't think it's hit middle school yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know for sure that these drugs and stuff do start in middle school. That's what we're talking about then right now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also Surah Al-Isra, Surah 17, Ayah 32. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. And do not approach unlawful sexual intercourse. Indeed, it is ever an immorality and is evil as a way. So these places that we're talking about right now, these clubs and these parties, this is the gateway for shaitan. Remember again, who's our open enemy? Shaitan, right? And he's coming at every angle he can, right, to tempt us. So once you get close to these things, we might think, right? We're included. We're not like superheroes here. That we're unstoppable. We're like Superman. So we ain't got no kryptonite. We're all right. We'll come in there. We'll be fine. We won't do anything haram. That's what Shaitan wants you to think. He wants me to think. He wants all of us to think that. Once we get close, just like fish, man, he baits you in, right? And that's what he wants to do. I saw at least 25 separate hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that repeated the same thing, that all intoxicants are haram. One of them I will mention was in the book of Sahih Muslim, the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and everyone understands when I say Rasulullah what that means, right? Everyone understands, right? So we're supposed to address the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as Nabi or Rasul, okay, as prophet or messenger. It is not appropriate to call him just Muhammad, right? Because that is rude. It's like the president, Barack Obama, comes in, hey Barack, what's up, man? How you doing? Right? That's a very rude thing to say. Now this is the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is the best man ever on the face of the earth. So you always try to say Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam maybe in da'wah, we're talking non-Muslim, you have to say Muhammad, but you try to say Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, a man came from Yemen. You know what Yemen is, right? Okay, he came from Yemen, and he was asking about a wine which was drunk in their land, and it was prepared from something else, and it's called mizr. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked, well, is this drink intoxicating? And the man said, yes. Thereupon, the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the following: every intoxicant is forbidden. Verily, Allah the Exalted and Majestic made a covenant to those who drank intoxicants to make their drink. Tanatul Khabal. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. But they said, what is this Tanatul Khabal? He said, it is the sweat of the denizens of hell, or the discharge of the denizens of hell. In other words, if we drink alcohol, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make us drink the sweat and the bathroom stuff as our drink. And that is a covenant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another time, Abu Musa, narrated by Abi Burda, this is again in Sahih Bukhari. Abu Musa al-Ashri said the Prophet ﷺ had sent him to Yemen, and he asked Prophet about certain alcoholic drinks which were prepared there. So again, it's like we have now, right? Maybe Coors Light, maybe Budweiser is not the same material, same barley is the same as grape wine or alcohol. So he's asking, is this also haram? And Prophet ﷺ said, all intoxicants are prohibited. So now, how do we fight these temptations? Right? We always discuss why it's haram, so on and so forth, the research, yes?
I had a question previously with the topic here, like the clubs.
Right.
So obviously, it's not a place for a Muslim to go to the club. Like, there's only one reason. But I'm saying if you're like a quinceañera, or like if you have friends who aren't Muslim and they invite you like occasions, like at homes, it's obviously gonna have alcohol. You're not gonna partake in that behavior. But I'm saying, do you avoid it outright completely, or are you still gonna get is it still gonna be bad that you even attended to begin with?
Well, okay, so here's the deal. There is an ayah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that says to not go near alcohol, right? But you have to realize in what regards. If you're going, you have to see if there's a bigger benefit than the harm of your trip, right? For example, if there's, if it's a family event, lots of family there, and some of them are going to be drinking, you don't have to participate in the drinking. And you don't have to help them with the drinking, like carrying the Budweiser and buying it for them and serving it to them. You stay in your own corner. But if you feel that the situation's getting a little tough, everyone's drinking or they're getting a little bit too drunk, then maybe it's better to leave the event. So remember, you have to kind of be smart enough in a society that we live in to pick and choose your battles, right? You have a brain, you have a mind. Allah has given all of us minds. So understand when I should go, when I should leave, if I should go, if I should, and your heart will tell you, inshallah. You'll feel it, because that's part of our fitrah. It's our human nature, that bad things will be detested to us. We will hate like bad things, right? So you will feel if this is a bad place for me, and you'll want to leave, inshallah. Okay, so how do we fight these temptations? We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all watching, right? Al-Basir. And He asks us to have taqwa of Him, to have awareness of Him. So if you know that the more that you know and you realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching everything we're doing, the more likely you are to not sin. Does that make sense? Is that what I'm following? Right? The more you know that, oh, God's watching me, I better not do this, I better not do that, I better stop this. Okay? That's how you know. And this is not like instant. This is developed, right? Like everyone here, including myself and everyone here, is developing this. We're trying to increase our taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that when we are facing sins, we can punch shaitan in the face and we're not going to do this, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us alternatives, right? He gives us, if pork is haram, He'll say beef is halal, or chicken is, or turkey, right? I guess from last night. Turkey is halal. Other things are halal. He'll give you alternatives. It's the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if you make something haram, there is a halal alternative somewhere out there for you. right? So if you want to avoid these things, remember there's 24 hours in a day. So keep your time busy with other things. Like what? Sports, video games, reading, shopping, hanging out with friends over coffee, learning languages, studying, making good grades, right? That's what our parents want. Learning about Islam, serving our parents and our families. Keeping yourself occupied. Because shaitan, he likes when you're idle, right? When you're sitting there, that's where he gets you. That's the moment he gets you. Got nothing to do. I'm going to call this person, I'm going to gossip, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go this, I'm going to drink, This is where it happens. Keep yourself busy. Plan your day. Going to sleep early. Man, oh man, this is hard, right? Going to sleep after Isha. Very difficult thing to do, you know? But you'll find that most of these things are happening when? Night. Late night specifically, right? People don't go to the club at 5:30 p.m. I promise you that. They go at 12 o'clock because they get drunk before they go and then they go to the club. Going to sleep early will protect you from that. And, you know, all of us actually thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because I used to live in the East Coast. Fajr sometimes was like 3:30 in the morning. Seriously, 3:30 in the morning. In Texas, have it good. All right? This is easy compared to what that was. Right? 5:30 Fajr, 6 o'clock Fajr, 7. This is good. Alhamdulillah. Right? But if you're sleeping at 3 o'clock a.m. and expect to get up at 5:30 a.m., what are your chances of waking up for Fajr? Right? Very difficult, very hard. And the older you get, the harder it is. When I was in college, I could sleep around 3 o'clock and I could make Fajr. Now, I have to sleep like before 12 o'clock to make Fajr. Because your body just gets older and something happens to you. So sleep early. Sleep early and wake up early. And the last one we'll talk about today, inshallah, is the good company. Probably after the awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most important thing that you can have as Muslims, especially in the United States. Good company. We are foolish. I will say it again, we are foolish if we think that our friends don't influence us. I promise you, wallahi, you want my wallahi, I'll give you wallahi. I promise you, your friends will influence you. And if you don't make good friends, drop your friends, get new ones. A lot of them are available. I'm being very serious. Because you want friends who will take you to Jannah, and not friends who take you to the hellfire. Friends who will take you to work for good companies and good jobs, and not friends that will take you to jail. Friends, there's lots of people in the world. Don't worry, there's lots of people in the world. Lots of Muslims in the world. We got millions in America. You want Muslim friends? We got millions. Millions. Make new friends. It's not really a problem. When I was in college, I wish I had someone to tell me this. In high school, for that matter. Someone who could be like, dude, get some good Muslim friends who are religious, who are faith-based, who are practicing, have good character, do good things. Make friends like that. Those friends will help you. Friends who you think are cool, with the cool cars and the cool lingo and the cool whatever, and they get all the girls or all the guys like her, and that is a mess, man. It is no good. I swear to you, it is no good. It is nothing but problems and headache that you will regret for a long time. The last hadith that we'll talk about today for the open Q&A, narrated Abu Musa radiallahu an, that the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the example of a good companion who sits with you. And the hadith says musk, but you're not going to understand. So think of when I'm going to say cologne and perfume. Good companion with a bad one is like that of a cologne seller and the blacksmith's bellow or furnace. From the first, you would either buy the cologne and enjoy its good smell, while the bellows would either burn your clothes or your house, or you would get a nasty smell thereof. Think about that for a minute. If your companion is someone who's smells like cologne or perfume, you feel good, right? It smells good. That's how you're going to be. You're going to be good. If your companion is somebody who smells like weed, smells sour, or alcohol, it smells horrible, or whatever else they're into, it'll be bad. And it'll make you feel bad. And it'll take you, again, to places you don't want to go, to prison, to other places. You know, I've had people in my life that they've gone to prison, teenage Muslim kids, man. Stuff is serious. We have to protect ourselves from shaitan in any way we can. So remember that we are in a constant battle to fight temptations. And shaitan is trying to attack us in many different ways. And we have to try to implement these best practices in order to protect ourselves and our families. And we'll have some quick questions for them, and then whatever else is planned. Question: cigarettes and hookah, right? Well, was first question cigarettes haram? Is that the question?
Yeah, and I go to Lee High School, and there's full of Muslims. And
Yeah.
I'll be sitting on their like lunch table, and all I hear is like the different flavors of hookah and stuff that they do and stuff. And it's for real, like they do that a lot, and I asked them, "Is it haram?" Like, nah, man, it's only 5% tobacco.
Okay, go ahead.
Like, I'm under the assumption that like hookah is makruh because like it doesn't really cause intoxication, but it does have like physical implication like towards your lungs and that kind. So I don't know if that's how you would say that would be like strict haram.
Yeah.
There's like a huge difference between makruh and haram.
Yeah. Okay, so what happened was, I'll answer this, and if Sheikh Gisa wants to comment, inshallah, then we can go from there. But from my understanding was that in Al-Azhar University in Egypt, they came out with the opinion that smoking is makruh, right? Is disliked, not haram, but disliked, right? The reason was because when people, like when you come to prayer, it's makruh to have eaten garlic and bad smelling things, so your bad smell will be with the people that you're praying with in close proximity. However, that was before the health effects of smoking were known. Because now everybody knows smoking causes cancer, will make your lungs black as this camera. That's why smoking is haram. It's basically is killing you, right? A slow suicide, if you like. Hookah, people will say hookah is not as bad as smoking, right? But from what I study with my sheikh, he's said that it carries the same ruling as smoking, that is haram. And the World Health Organization will tell you that it is multiple times worse for you smoking hookah than cigarettes for your health-wise. And Sheikh Isa, I'll yield to you.
No problem.
It's
I
okay.
don't know about the hookah.
Okay.
The World
Health Organization.
I don't know that.
No.
I'm gonna go tell them.
Yeah, you can tell them. You tell them I said.
I'll expound on that. The reason that hookah is considered by the World Health Organization and studies that were done at Harvard Medical School on people who had smoked hookah their entire lives was because cigarettes, even though they're chemically made and they have 1,000 different chemicals that are bad, like ammonia that's used in bleach, cigarettes still have a filter. You know, when you look at a cigarette, the bottom part of it is orange and the top part of it is white. That filter still takes up about 70% of the bad stuff that they put inside a cigarette. Hookah, when they say it's just 5% tobacco, that's actually not accurate. The entire thing is tobacco, and it has flavor inside of it. And the same types of bad quote-unquote chemicals that are inside cigarettes are inside hookah, but there is no filter. And people think that the water bomb that they use is the filter. That doesn't filter anything, it just makes it smell good because of the flavors that they've added. So people who smoked hookah over their lifetimes had more problems with these health risks that come with smoking just as much as cigarettes did. But people who smoke cigarettes smoke, 2 to 3 packs a day versus people who smoke hookah will maybe do one bong thing with a couple friends a day. And so the time it takes for hookah to catch up with you may be longer than somebody who smokes 2 to 3 packs of cigarettes a day. But at the end of the day, the health effects are just as bad or worse.
Okay. Any other?
You can think of it as something as being haram or disliked, but either way, if you want to protect yourself physically and spiritually, you should probably stay away from both of them.
Any other questions? And if you want to ask questions like in less public thing, then inshallah we'll be here to answer your questions as well after the lecture. But if there's anything else, please feel free to ask now.
If anyone else.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Hmm?
isn't coffee like supposed to be haram too? Cause it make you like,
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying?
Okay. So yeah, coffee is what's up?
I said, watch out, man.
What? Don't worry, I got it. So this is our that class I told you about. I took in the seminary about the dude coming to the masjid stoned, right? So we talked about like the history of coffee as well. So for a time, this was talked about amongst the ummah. Is coffee haram, right? And there are books out, Tahrim al-Kahwi, and there's books out for this, and there was a talk. Really what it was a political problem. People would go to coffee houses and they would talk against the government. So they really didn't like it, and it was a certain group of Muslims that were doing that, and politically there was problems. Coffee is not an intoxicant, it's a stimulant. There's a difference between intoxicant and stimulant. So coffee is not haram. Some scholars tried to make it haram, but it obviously didn't work. It was more of a political thing than a religious thing. That makes sense. They had a problem with the government more than they had with people fighting against the government than it was a religious thing. So coffee, no, it's not haram, Allahu alam, but it's a stimulant, but it's not an intoxicant.
Any other questions, Ahmed?
Is malt haram? Because like malt drinks, because they use malt for fermentation of wine and alcohol. But if you have it like in a drink,
Yeah.
is it still haram?
I don't know what to say. I don't know if it intoxicates you, then it has to be haram. Like vinegar, I mean it's the state of the matter, right? Because vinegar is also from the same thing as alcohol. You process it and then it becomes this or becomes that, right? Like grapes, are grapes haram? No, grapes are halal, right? But you turn a grape into liquor or a wine and it becomes haram, right? It's a state of the matter. So I don't know, to be honest with you. I can find out for you if you like. Like, I don't know, Sheikh Isa, if you have anything to say.
I wrote down to look it up.
Okay, Tob.
Oh yeah, I have like a question about food, you know, cause seafood,
Yeah,
like is some of it haram, like shrimp and stuff. Cause
yeah.
people will come up to me like they'll be like, shrimp is haram and stuff. I'm like, what? Shrimp is good.
Yeah, shrimp is good. Shrimp is, you're going to find different people in your life. In my life, I find all the time that will tell you different things, right? And so you can't really go with the people say. You have to go to people of knowledge like Sheikh Isa or something who know and who can give you answers, right? Who've studied properly and give you answers. There's no problem with eating seafood because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has permitted it to eat seafood. According to the opinion that I follow, it is permissible to eat shrimp and other seafood. Yeah.
Okay,
What's a
there's
few
this, there's this drink that I've tried before. It's called drink. It's not purple drink. It doesn't have cough syrup.
Any drink is going to be haram. Called drink is going to be haram.
Like I looked it up. It's not like purple drink. Like
Yeah.
It doesn't have those drugs or whatever.
Hmm.
But it's supposed to make you like feel relaxed and kind of drowsy. Like it says on the bottle, it's the anti-energy drink. Would that be haram to drink?
An anti-energy drink. We'll have to look it up and
Like the ingredients, I didn't see anything in the ingredients that's like a drug or whatever.
yeah.
But it has some ingredients that are in sleep medicine
Uh-huh.
that make you drowsy.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we'll have to look it up,
Don't drive.
and I don't think we can really say until we look it up.
Yeah, energy, I've
But
never heard of it.
it's called drank. That's it.
yeah, just drink.
Yeah, it's a new thing.
What about Adeel and Thailand?
All right, we'll have to look it up.
Sure.
Cool.
Adeel and Thailand
More research, inshallah.
is good, right?
What's up?
Like Adeel and Thailand is good.
I can't hear you, sir.
Adeel and Thailand is good for you. Like you could do it.
Yeah, you can if you're supposed to take it, right? Like any other like drugs, right? Only when you like even like medical drugs, that's not like, allowed unless you're supposed to take it like a doctor tells you or you're sick, right? You can't just like randomly take things because you want to have fun, right? So even those medical drugs, they're medical. From a medical doctor tells you to take those drugs, right? Otherwise, you should not take those drugs. Okay, anything else? Yeah.
People always ask me like, oh, do not eat pork, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't eat pork. And I'm like, oh no, it's against our religion, but
Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden pork.
It's like,
You know how there's a reason why alcohol's haram, like what's the reason why pork?
I mean,
We took it that it's just because the dirty animal.
yeah, they're similar. Yeah.
oh, I have.
What's what? Should you go answer?
Sometimes we don't have to have a reason all the time of why something is halal or haram. Like for example, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow, I know sisters don't like this, but why did he allow it permissible for a man to have 4 wives if he's able to do so, and not and not a woman to have, right, more than one husband? Now there can be specific reasons behind that, but it doesn't necessitate for us to know why something is haram and know the reason all the time.
Right.
So no doubt Allah is Al-Hakim, He's all wise. So there are times where we'll find out later on why are certain things impermissible. Like pork, you later find out the dirtiness of it, right? Knowing that it's an unhealthy animal, it does certain things that other animals don't do. You saw the health effects that it has on human beings. Even Isa alayhi salam, what is one of the things he's going to do when he comes back? He's going to kill all of the pigs, right? So a lot of times we may not need to know why is this specific issue or this thing haram, but it doesn't necessitate that you know, it doesn't mean like, oh, I can't ask, or we shouldn't look it up. And it's always encouraged in Islam to investigate, but don't make that the issue of like, if I can't find out why it's not haram, Allah said in the Quran first, so you hear and you obey. That's one of the most difficult things for us to do, especially here in America, growing up in this society. It's like, I'm gonna do what I want to do, but Allah teaches us in the Quran what made the Sahabas great, radiyallahu anhum, was that they used to hear something and they will obey, and then the understanding might come or may not come. And you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you that understanding. If you're having trouble with something, like, man, why is this not permissible? Or why is it allowed? Like I mentioned the issue of the 4 wives. For some sisters, they may bug out. People in general, just like, I can't deal with that. We're not asking you to accept it. Is it permissible or not? Yes. Is there a reason behind it? I'm sure there is. And there's wisdom behind it? Yes. And then you ask Allah to at least allow you to accept it. And and you take it in stride. It doesn't mean you're going to understand everything all at once.
You don't have to necessarily have the logic behind it, right? Because the statement from Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu an, who said that if everything in Islam is based on logic, it would make more sense to when you have wudu, you can wipe over your socks, right? If you make wudu and you put your sock over your ankle, you can wipe over that to do your wudu again, right? He would say it makes more sense to wipe the bottom of the foot than to wipe the top of it. We wipe the top of the foot, right? So sometimes we don't know the logic. If we know the logic, alhamdulillah, Allah's given us a blessing. But if we don't know the logic, doesn't mean we don't obey and agree with it, And the Bible, there's people. Jesus didn't eat pork. Come on, and it was forbidden for forbidden still for the Jews, and the Jews don't eat pork either. So it's like, out of the Abrahamic faith, 2 out of 3 don't eat pork. Doing wudu with your socks on allowed?
If you have your socks on, but it still, with your wudu still count?
You have to do wudu first, complete wudu, then shake if I'm getting wrong. Then you put the sock on over the ankle, right? And then you can wipe, and then say you break your wudu, right? Then you can do the whole wudu again, and then wipe over the top part, right, like right here, on both sides. And then your wudu should be permissible.
For a whole day, for 24 hours, from the time that you wipe over your sock.
But if you're already on wudu, why would you do it again?
No,
When
if
you
lose
wudu. If you lose wudu, for example, you wake up in the morning for Fajr, you don't have any socks on. You make proper wudu. You put on your socks and you go through your day. Then at Dhuhr time, it's time to pray and you lost your wudu. So then you make wudu and then you wipe over your sock. From that moment until the next day, at Dhuhr time, before Dhuhr, it's okay to keep making wudu over your sock if you break it.
Yeah.
If you did something haram, and you didn't know it was haram until you figured it out, and you've been doing it for a while, would you be sinned?
Oh, the Prophet ﷺ, one of the people that he said that were excluded from being held accountable for anything was someone who was ignorant of an issue. So, for example, just say you didn't know that alcohol was haram. Possible. Some people didn't know. So the moment that they're held accountable for that is when they find out. For example, there was a brother, he mentioned the story, Sheikh Hood Bradford, he said, he didn't know that he would use, what would he do? He would make wudu and then use the restroom. Right? It sounds funny, but no one told him. Right? No one told him that wasn't right. So his salat is okay until he found out, that, oh, look, you're supposed to first use the restroom, then make wudu. So until you find out what is, permissible or not, I know it's funny. He's still laughing. And Allah reward him. Yeah, I'm sorry. The whole point is that you're not held accountable for something until you find out that it's permissible or not. And I wanted to mention something a sister asked, and we'll stop here, inshallah. The food is on its way. About the quinceañeras or parties and things of that nature. One thing that we need to be very careful about, sometimes the quinceañera could be as wild as a club. And I know because that's, I come from that society and from, that culture. And we have to be extremely careful on those type of parties. I mean, knowing that the majority of what's going to happen there is not going to be pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Someone can debate the issue of birthdays or not, so that's one thing. Then the whole issue of dancing, and then the whole issue of music, and then the whole issue of the intermixing, and then the whole issue of alcohol and what have you. So trying to find the good in that kind of gathering is sometimes difficult. And I'm not going to stereotype, because I know there are some religious, Christians that have, quinceañera, and usually it's, they gather together and they have dinner and it's a small little gathering party. To be honest with you, that's probably that's the exception to the rule. So you have to be really, again, intelligent and know and ask those people who have done that before, have gone through it, to see if that's something that you should go to or not. So just be aware of those things, that the majority of the times there's going to be things happening at those parties that are not going to invite you to the good.
Sure.
Like you saying dancing. Is dancing haram, real? Real talk? 'Cause,
Specifically, I'll say this. The Prophet ﷺ, he allows certain things for women to do. Right? They're allowed to play the duff. They're allowed to dance together in a very appropriate manner. Right? They're allowed to sing songs. They're allowed to, even write their own songs and make up songs. They're something that has a positive message. For the man, it's completely different. There's only one or two times that a man's allowed to just play the duff. And there's maybe a difference of opinion, but the point is, that's when you're getting ready to battle. All right, straight up, it's war, and that's a whole different issue. War, right? But I'm getting there with any kind of dancing. So then, when it comes for a man in singing or dancing, it is not permissible at all, because it is not from the character of a man to do so. Imagine Omar radiallahu anhu breakdancing or dancing at all, right? Or Abu Bakr, or even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If it was something good to do, they would have been the first ones singing, because it was dancing and singing in the time of the Prophet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to break your bubble or anything like that, because I come from, a lot of things that you probably do or see or what have you. What I'm saying is that know that in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, there was singing, there was dancing, there were battles, rap battles, poetry. There were people doing that stuff. So it wasn't like it didn't exist. So if it was something that was good to do, they would have been the first ones to be doing it. So that's what they used to, and I'll stop here. That's why they used to love doing poetry. Poetry is a big thing that a lot of the young Muslims have left off. And but the poetry brought out issues that were positive. to express themselves in a real positive manner. Issues that were really going on. The great scholars used to do the same thing. In doing poetry, it allows you to express yourself as an alternative to what you hear and see on the videos or on the radio. And even non-Muslims do it. Deaf comedy jam, was it deaf? Not comedy, deaf poetry jam.
Deaf comedy is a whole different
Yeah,
story.
that's a whole different story. My bad. You know, even them, they saw that there was people who just weren't into the music. They just liked the poetry. And Allah knows best.
Again, this is a really this is a whole
Yeah.
different topic. You know,
That's true.
shake it time, and it's like I look at this stuff when I was in college, independent study, in the bachelor level and the graduate school level. It's like a whole different topic in itself. Like whole music, singing, dancing thing. I mean, we can expound on it for like hours and hours, because it's a lot of different things. Even like religious music comes in, and then it gets like there's a lot of different things that can be talked about. So any other question? Like I know they're in a rush to keep going, but I think it's important. Yeah.
Celebrating birthday is haram. I mean, family. If there is just family, is it haram?
I don't have a problem with it, from what I've studied, but Sheikh Issa have his own opinion, so inshallah you can say it. But not Prophet's birthday. I don't agree with Prophet's own birthday, but anybody's individual, I don't have a problem with it.
He said no.
I mean, if it's just the family, I mean, no dance, nothing, and I'm just confused.
From looking at it from the aspect of what's the purpose of a birthday? The purpose of the birthday is to celebrate one's birth, and the focus is on that human being. And then you look at the origins of birthday. It comes from pagan rituals or beliefs. So from that end, I don't see it to be something that is permissible, because number one, the focus is not on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the focus is on a human being. Number two, the origins come straight from paganistic rituals. So for me personally, I would advise the brothers and sisters to avoid something like that. Again, if there was someone who we would celebrate, his birthday would be the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It would be his before anyone. And if the companions radiallahu anhum would have been the first to do it, inshallah we would have been the first to do it. But no one ever did it. So because that act is overpraising or praising human beings in a manner that it shouldn't be praised. But again, not making this issue difficult, but if the Prophet ﷺ's birthday was allowed to be celebrated, we would do that before anyone else's. So if that's not permissible, then I don't see how anyone else's would. But Allah knows best.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that celebrate the Prophet's birthday.
Yes, they are, and there's a lot of people that do things that they will say that it's from Islam and it's not.
I don't agree with it, because also himself, if it's an ibadah, he himself would have done it, right? Number one. Number two, there's a prohibition in Islam from Surah Al-Kafirun, lakum dinukum waliyadin, right? Religions are respective. We have our religion, they have their religion. Celebration of the birthday of a religious person is like what Christmas is, right? And taking that and applying it to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I don't think that's if he didn't do it, as Sheikh Issa said, I don't think it should be done specifically for him or or Omar or Ali or I don't know who else might want to do it for. People do it. I mean,
Yeah, and there's a difference, real quickly, again, in just because you may not agree with someone in doing something. Like me and him may have a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
And me and him are not going to go out and say, you know what, I'm never going to sit with you again.
I don't like Issa.
Right, I don't like him. Because sometimes we have to be understanding and dealing with other people's opinion. But there are principles in Islam, right? And just mentioning that aspect of celebrating the Prophet's birthday, again, there are people who do certain things that are from Islam, that are Muslim. They say that it's from Islam, but they may not know, or they may not have the proof that to express or to show that this is something that is not allowed or allowed. And Allah knows best.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Is it okay to have a music party or singing?
We can have
There are no boys, just the girls.
Yeah, I mean, from the aspect of them staying together and singing and having their own songs. Even when the Prophet ﷺ, real quick, and I'll stop with this, he heard one of the young ladies singing during Eid, and it was overpraising him. This is in Bukhari, and it was talking about overpraising. I can't remember exactly the statement, and he told her to stop, and he said, say something else or write something else. But he encouraged her to make up her own songs that was remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not overpraising him. So things like that is permissible, inshallah. Wa alaikum salam.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Adeel, Sheikh Isa, for I guess it was a tag team lecture at the end.
Always, brother.
Alhamdulillah. Again, just to let you guys know that inshallah we're going to have this every Friday, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. And inshallah we're going to continue going on. Now I want to kind of introduce